So last week, for those who were here, we had our burning bowl ceremony, and we started a process of release and intention building and naming our new spiritual awakening for the new year. We're going to continue that today with our white stone ceremony. It's so funny because we get so bounded up in looking at our physical selves. You all are looking at me right now and you're thinking, that's Melanie, right? And I'm looking at you and I'm thinking, that's Gay and that's Diane and that's Ellen. But what we don't move on to realize is that we are not the same as we were last week. I am not the same Melanie that I was last week. You're not the same you that you were last week. We get lulled into a sense of security and assurances by saying, oh, that's the same person I always knew. We change. And one thing that's so important about ritual is to notice those changes and celebrate those changes and understand what they mean and what the next step is, right? And that's what the white stone ceremony does for us. Sometimes in our busy Western lives, we don't have enough ritual. We don't have enough moments where we say, stop, what is happening? What am I moving from and what am I moving toward? That's one of the gifts of this ceremony, as last week was. That was one of the gifts of the burning bowl. And what did we do? We released those habits, those judgments, those assumptions, those beliefs that may have served us in the past but now no longer did. The analogy I gave last week was the image that the Buddha used. When you cross a river, you have a boat, but then when you get to the other side, you don't put it on your back and keep going. The boat's done, right? You're where you are. You don't need it anymore. That's what we did last week with the burning bowl ceremony. Many of you wrote notes to yourself or letters to God. You put them in our prayer box. If you still want to do that, there's still an opportunity to do that. What we did is we wrote down our intention for the new year, our goal, our dream, our desire for the new year, and put it in the prayer box. And we're going to pray about that over the course of the year. And then at the end of the year, what we do is we mail them back to you, courtesy of the U.S. Postal Service. And you open it up and you say, wow, that was what I hoped at the beginning of the year, and this is how it worked out, or these are things I still need to work on. So I invite you to do that if you would still like to do that. Today is the day where we hear our new name. We hear our new understanding, our new identity, our new spiritual awakening, which is going to accompany us into this new year. How many people have their white stones from last year? I'm not going to ask for a show of hands. Did it help? Did it ground you? Did it give you an idea when you're zooming off into the ether of total weirdness? You look at your stone and you say, no, this is who I am. That's how my stone works for me. Because I spend a lot of time circling in total weirdness. But I think, no, that is who I am. This is who I intend to be. That is the function of the white stone. It reminds us who we are. We're visual people. We're meaning-seeking people. And that's what it does for us. So that's what we're going to do today. This new name for your evolving spiritual identity is the next step. You know, sometimes when we say new name, we say, well, we're just going to forget the old name. It's not really new. It's just next. Right? Because what we do is we build on all the steps we have taken. We stand on the shoulders of our previous selves. Every lesson we have learned, everything we have unlearned makes us who we are. So what we're doing today is we're moving into what is next as we continue our unfolding. So what is the white stone? The white stone is a symbol that's been with us for thousands of years, since the time of Roman antiquity. In that time, the white stone was given to a prisoner who was released to show that he or she was free. A lot of people didn't read and write back then, so what did they do? They had white stones. If you had just been released from prison, you were given this symbol to show that you could travel across the empire. You could travel unimpeded. You were free. You had a new start. In the same way, the white stone that you are going to select that speaks to you is going to symbolize your walk to freedom, your personal decision to go past those bars that you have created, to walk out of the prisons you have built for yourself into the sunlight that is just waiting. Because that's what the prisons are. If you're anything like me, I build these walls myself, and then I just live inside them going, wow, that's a big wall. How much sense does that make? I'm the one who put it there. And I'm the one who can knock it down, and you are too. The prisons we place around ourselves are illusory, and they are of our own making. because we know that our reality is a subject of our perception. Isn't that what we believe here?
Yes.
What we see is what we expect to see, what we put into it. Our reality is conditioned based upon our assumptions and our judgments and our beliefs, and all of those can change. We are free to walk out of whatever walls we have created and welcome this new year as one of complete potential and opportunity and continued unfolding. We are eternally in the flow of light, of spirit, of source, and when you walk around and hold that white stone, that will remind you of that. It will remind you that you are free. As Asha sings, you are unlimited. There is nothing that binds you. When our hearts and our consciousness are in harmony with the flow, what do we talk about? Being in the river, right? We talk about being in the flow. Eric Butterworth wrote a book called In the Flow. When our lives are easy, when we are feeling in the zone, it's because we are in that flow. Let me put it another way. It's because we are awake to the fact that we are in the flow. We are always in the flow. We have no option but to be part of the great river because we are. The question is, are we aware of it? The question is, are we trying to swim in the other direction? Or are we aware that we are part of that surging creative energy that surrounds and sustains all of us? That's where the awareness comes in. That's where our spiritual practices come in, which I hope we're going to continue this year. So what we're going to ask ourselves today is, what is our next? What is our next awakening? What is our next understanding of ourselves? What is the transformation we are walking into in this new year? So we all know as we get older, as we continue on our journeys, we change, right? I'm not the same person I was yesterday. I'm kind of the same person. But I'm not the same, certainly not the same person I was 10 years ago, and neither are any of you, right? We continue to unfold. It's so funny because people keep saying, oh, I wish I was 18 again. I would rather run in front of a truck than be 18 again. Seriously. You know, I mean, sometimes I look around and I wish, oh my God, I wish I had 40 more years. Because as I get older, it just gets so much more cool, you know? But that's a process of just unfolding. That's a process of wisdom. They say they say knowledge is gathering information. Wisdom is unlearning and learning what is essential and what we need, and putting aside the baggage and the driftwood that we don't need. So we change, we learn, and we unlearn. Today's ceremony of discerning our new identity, of putting a name to that, marks that continuing path with intention and clarity and focus. Because that's what we're all about here. Clarity, awareness, and intention. Because when you can live your life with those three attributes, everything changes. Don't you find that? Don't you find that your life tends to go south when you don't? Mine does. When I just kind of muddle through. Reference my earlier comment about the ether of weirdness. Today's ritual is a time of discernment and a time of listening, to opening your heart to hear what name Spirit is giving to you, and only you, for this new year. You listen for a new name, but you also may hear a new direction, a new focus. It doesn't necessarily have to be a name. It can be an attribute, it can be a quality, it can be an intention, whatever speaks to you, because Spirit is going, your heart is going to be speaking to you. And whatever name comes up, listen. You may think, that's the weirdest thing I could possibly have come up with. And you may think, that makes no sense. But you write it down anyway, because that is the word that won't go away. And what happens next August? You look at your stone and you go, yes, that's why I thought that. Has that ever happened to any of you? You kind of just grow into your name? That has happened to me. So don't be judgmental. Don't overthink it. Just listen and trust. Because your heart will tell you when you enable yourself to be a clear channel for what it is saying. The genesis of the White Stone ceremony is from Revelations in the Christian Scriptures, chapter 2, verse 17, and it reads as follows. Let anyone who has an ear to listen to what the Spirit is saying to the churches. To everyone who conquers, who overcomes, I will give some of the hidden manna, and I will give a white stone. And on the white stone is written a new name that no one knows except the one who receives it. Okay. A lot of people, when they hear the word Revelation, it is a book that is fraught with baggage. Right? Has anybody here read Revelation? Oh my goodness. Okay, it has a lot of baggage with it. But many who read Revelation in a more traditional framework believe that it is the apocalyptic end time. Christ is coming. All these animals are coming. All these images are coming. The world is breaking up. That is one way of looking at it. Another way, a more metaphysical way of looking at it, is that it is about our own divinity, our own journey, our own path to realizing our divine consciousness. One of the challenges that we embrace here at One World and in other communities is looking at these scriptures and looking at them in new ways. And Revelation gives us an opportunity to do that. Because it is a wonderful book. It is a profound book. You just have to dig into it for the messages it gives us when you think of it in that way. How we uncover our own divine consciousness. It remains about conquering. It remains about overcoming. But the obstacles we overcome are those that we put in our own way. To achieving, to understanding, to awakening to our own divinity. It also says, I will give some of the hidden manna. So what was manna? As the Jews were wandering in the wilderness, they ran out of food, right? So God made manna come down and fed them for the 40 years that they were wandering in the wilderness. But what Revelation talks about is hidden manna. Why is it hidden? Because it's known only to us. Because we have to look for it. Because we have to listen to it. It doesn't just come up and smack us in the head like a 2x4. It is there, but we have to look for it and listen for it and search for it. It is hidden wisdom. It is hidden nourishment, but it is there. And it is sustaining when we find it. The Bible has a lot of references to those who have ears to hear. I think it's got dozens of references if you have ears to hear or ears to listen. That, again, is a symbol of discernment. It's a symbol of opening. It's a symbol of willingness to listen to what is being said. We all have ears, but sometimes they're not all that receptive, are they? They are just plugged up. They're full of stuff that we put in there. It is up to us to release them, to unblock them, to give ourselves the opportunity to be that clear channel to Spirit that is speaking to us. So why a new name? Because names have power. Have you found that? No, most of us here, like Asha did, most of us here did not pick our names, right? Were they just our names? I didn't choose to be Melanie. My mother named me Melanie because she thought it meant happy and gay. A few years later, okay, no gay jokes, okay. But a few years later, I went up, when I was a teenager, I said, Mom, it means sad and melancholy. She said, oh, sorry. Screwed that one up. Okay, well, we don't get to pick our names. This is totally true. But names have power. And in a lot of traditions, people consciously take new names. In the Buddhist tradition, when you accept the Buddha, the Sangha, the Dharma, when you take your monkhood, you take a new name, right? In many Native American traditions, as you go on a spirit quest, as you go on a path of discernment, you are given a new name. Because it's a new identity for yourself. Our names have power. They are part of how we think about ourselves. So one of the things I want you to do, I invite you to do as you move forward from this ceremony going forward, is how do you think about yourself? Right? When you think about yourself, do you lift yourself up? And this is not just a name thing. This is also a self-awareness thing. The names are one way we think about ourselves, but focus on that. What is the intention you want to bring into this new year for how you think about yourself? How you are going to feel about yourself, your capabilities, your heart, your capacity to love, to connect, to make a difference. We all have those, and what shuts us down is when we think we don't. Right? Our new name is part of our opening that up to our ability to be the truth of who we are, because that's why we come every week. We come to see each other, but we also come to remember that we are more than what we so frequently tell ourselves. That's what I get so often when I come here, is just the remembrance that we can be so much more than we typically tell ourselves that we are. We can be loving, we can be compassionate, we can be powerful, we can be all those things. So as you go forward from today, keep that in mind when you leave here with your new name. What does it symbolize to you? What does it give you in terms of how you think about yourself? When you think of a new name, as I said, it can be an attribute, it can be an intention. It's not going to be something like, I need to lose 20 pounds, or I need to get down to the gym more, right? It's on a deeper level than that. It can be, I need to take another look at how I take care of my body, how I take care of my environment, but it is not a New Year's intention. It's not a to-do list. It's the next in your spiritual awakening, in your unfolding identity. So we are told that with any ritual, what is important about ritual? It's intent, right? It's the intention and the heart with which you approach it. So what we're going to do in a few minutes, I'm going to ask you to come up. We have stones here and we have pens here, and I'm going to ask you just to stand here and look at the stones and pick one that speaks to you. Just take your time. Pick one that speaks to you. Take a pen and then go back to your seat. And during the meditation, just hold it. Just feel that energy and let its energy permeate you. And when you're ready, what you're going to do is just write that word, that one word, maybe one or two words, on that stone. That is your new name, your next awakening in this coming year. Just breathe and listen, and something will come to you. And I encourage you to carry it with you this year and just look at it as a reminder of the truth of who you are as you discerned it today, as you sat and listened. Right? Somebody already has one, but so that's what we're going to do. Don't try too hard. This is not a thinking exercise. If you hear a word and your next thought is, oh, that can't be right, you're trying too hard. Be gentle with yourself. Be curious. Don't be judgmental. Just listen, and your new name will come to you. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a song, and during the song, what I'd like you to do is come up and pick a stone, no rush, and a pen, and bring it back to your seat, and then we'll start our meditation.
It wasn't you, right?
Yes, it must be done. That was the lightning crackling getting us going. The energy's about to come in.
Yep.
Ready? Sorry.
Bad chord.
The bad chord. We're going to make do. We are. No, it's not clay. We got a chord over here. That's all right. It'll be fine. We're just not going to move. Ready? We're just going to make do with the guitar the way it is because it's not working. I'm opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the one. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the one. I am opening. I am opening. I just muted you. I am opening. I am opening. One more time. I am opening the sweet surrender.
just sit in your seat and take a breath and relax. We're just going to sit in the silence for a minute.
Your microphone's on.
My microphone's on? Well, we're really sitting in the silence.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just take a breath. Deep breath in. And as you release it with absolutely no effort, you hold your stone. You relax in your chair. And you just feel that energy as you sit, as you center, and as you continue to breathe. Deeply in, all the way down to your belly. And then you gently just release. And as we sit, and as we breathe, we bring our attention down to our heart space, and we just let the breath warm us and flow over our wide open hearts. There's nothing we need to do and nowhere we need to be other than right here. And as you sit, you give yourself permission to just be willing. To be willing to listen, to discern, to hear what it is that your heart is telling you, what spirit is telling you. Because it's there. We sometimes cover it up. We often don't listen. But as we sit and breathe, let's just say, yes, I am willing to hear and to know what Spirit is telling me for this coming year. The I am of your being will give you a new name, will expand your understanding of who you are to be in this coming year. You are willing to experience new possibilities, to have new growth, to continue your unfolding and your joyful awakening into the truth of who you are. You are willing to take the next step in your transformation. As you continue to breathe, you are still and you know that the great I am in your heart is speaking to you. And so, as you are guided by Spirit, as you listen, as you discern, without judgment, and with gentle curiosity, you hear that new word, that new intention, that new understanding that will take you into your greater unfolding. As you sit and as you listen, allow yourself to hear that new name that Spirit whispers to you. you sit and as you breathe, you continue to know that that understanding is in your heart right now. Picture in your mind a presence at the gate of this new year. Before you is 2019 in all its unfolding. You meet a presence at the gate that greets you in this new year. The presence looks into your heart and gives you that small stone which you hold in your hand. They tell you this is a symbol of your new name, your new life, your new awakening. And when they do, you hear that name. You hear that new understanding and that new awakening as you enter into this new year. And when you're ready, just take your pen and write it on that white stone. What is next? What is coming? When you're done, just continue to sit holding your stone. letting that energy just merge in with yours, setting your intention for this coming year with your new name. Open your eyes and know that you have taken the next step in your continued unfolding.
I'm opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the one. I'm opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the one. I'm opening. I'm opening. I'm opening. I'm opening.
okay, at the end of the meditation, I want to do a song that's going to get kind of fast. And I said, well, let's give it a shot. All right. So how was that? Did everybody think of a name? Was that a good moment?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Because that's how we need to step into the new year, with intention and awareness. Because there's no time to waste, right? Every day I get a thing from the Daily Stoic, and the thing today was basically telling us just to move into doing what matters, right? And not let ourselves be sucked up by diversions and things that take our energy and things that don't move us forward. And the way we can continue to do that, the way I can continue to do that, is just to continue to be aware. And it's things like this that enable me to continue to try to do that. Because the worst thing we can do really is waste our time, because it's so precious. Okay, so I invite our ushers up, and I invite you to take out your gifts and tithes.